He's definitely was like you described, very hardworking Canadian man. You know, he would come in the morning, hang up his hat, work the whole day, put the hat back on, to the hotel, sleep, wake up at 5 a.m., check out all the tracks we did before the day started, and then get an idea of what's going to go on, get back to the studio, hat back on the hook, back to work, and no panic, we managed to get 6 songs in 4 days, which sounds like a panic weekend to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having a panic attack just talking about it, but... Welcome back to Innersleeve. It's episode number 16 of the podcast here on SoundMojo. I'm your host, Cassius Morris. Frank Pavan, Joe Pacheco, 2 of our resident magic makers over at SoundMojo. What's going on, guys?
Fantastic day today.
Yeah, fantastic day. Don't sound too excited about it.
No, it is. Well, I'm one of those that doesn't get his hopes high. So it's like there's beautiful sun. I checked the weather this week. It's gonna be sun every day. That makes my thing.
I'm with you on that. And you know what that means? I mean, hoping, fingers crossed, golf season's upon us soon. Gonna bring a bit of sports to the channel.
Yes, Frank, that's always your goal, and you're inching the sports in week by week, which I appreciate. Keeping it diverse. Speaking of keeping it diverse, I'm particularly excited about today's episode because we always try to switch it up for you guys. And this week we actually have an entire band on the podcast. We're joined today by The Damn Truth, an awesome rock group out of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And not only did they just drop an awesome cover of Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones, which you should go check out, they also have a brand new project coming out, which is produced by legendary producer Bob Rock. If you're a fan of AC/DC, pretty much any major rock metal group, Bob Rock has had his fingerprints on some of their music. So really exciting time for The Damn Truth, and we couldn't be happier to have them on the podcast. And when we come back, we're joined by the guys over at the Motorcycle Display Team band and YouTube channel. We're going to be talking about the first Rage Against the Machine record, the impact it's left on music, and how we're looking back on it on its anniversary. So we won't keep you guys any longer. Enjoy our chat with The Damn Truth. The Damn Truth. We are joined by the entire group here. Thank you all for joining me.
Thanks for having us, man.
100%, all the way out of Montreal. So you guys have something really exciting that just came out. You have an incredible cover of Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones, which is, I mean, it must be quite the cover to tackle. I mean, huge shoes to fill. However, you guys did an incredible job. Talk to me about what, for sure. What went into this cover exactly, and why did you pick this song by the Rolling Stones?
Well, actually, when we were freaking out here in isolation in Montreal for a few months, we really didn't know what to do with ourselves. We were halfway through recording an album with the legendary Bob Rock in Bryan Adams' studio in Vancouver. And then suddenly we were supposed to go back there in March to finish the record, and we couldn't. So instead, we're at home looking back and forth at each other. So what are we going to do with our time? And we started, recording little songs we love in isolation. So we started this little project. Every week we would release a song, and one of them was the Rolling Stones. We've always loved this song of Gimme Shelter. I absolutely adore, the energy of the song, and the vocals are just, they're mind blowing. And it was really, really fun to take it on as a project, and really incredible that, it was picked up and so well received. It's just something that we recorded at home,
Exactly. So who's the production mastermind here for the group?
I mean, we split pretty equally. I mean, sometimes I work on the video, sometimes I work on the audio. Dave definitely has more of his hand in the audio stuff, as he owns a recording studio. So we can talk about that. He mixed the whole thing.
I mean, the project was kind of like an 8-song series, and Gimme Shelter became kind of like a highlight for the project. It just kind of picked up a little more momentum than the others. Was getting some airplay on a bunch of radio stations across Canada. Here in Montreal, it got played like pretty heavily. And I mean, for us, it was a project to keep us busy while we were all locked away in our homes. And I think maybe it was just something about the vocal performance that brought, you know, something new to the song, or, you know, maybe Leela's vocal performance just kind of like was a little, you know, extraordinary, you know, for
Very
a
much
cover
so.
of a Rolling Stones song. You don't expect necessarily that like powerful women's lead voice on a Rolling Stones song. I mean, Mick Jagger is a legend, don't get me wrong, but you know, Leela's a legend too.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, what's it like approaching something like this from home versus in an outside environment? What for each of you, what's the main difference, and which one do you prefer?
Obviously outside.
You prefer the outside? Why is that?
Well, because we're what's magic about this group is when we get together, what comes of it, you know? And the distance on computer, yes, we hadn't been able to jam for many months, so it did feel really great because we recorded everything from our own homes, but I'm still recording to Tom's guitar that he recorded at home, Leela's vocal that she recorded at home, Dave recorded at Freak Shop, so it's still them, but at a distance. So at the time it was great, but now we're jamming in real life and it's 10 million times better.
So you guys are able to do that now?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've got our little bubble going here, and I mean, we've got a lot of projects in the works, so we kind of approach it in the most cautious way possible, looking at our schedules, trying to avoid contact with other people and all that stuff. It's just the reality of what it is, you know. The song itself, you know, we did separately, and I found it incredibly challenging, despite how simple, like, the drum arrangement is on that song. I mean, for me to sit in the studio by myself and play to a click track and somebody's pre-recorded guitar it's kind of cold, you know? So, I mean, the four of us, we play together, we record together, we love together and argue together. So it's like, you know,
it's a family.
Isolation is very challenging to, you know, give rock and roll the feel that rock and roll needs. Rock and roll needs feel, rock and roll needs emotion, rock and roll needs, you gotta, you know, it's not rock and roll unless you feel the highs and the lows. So to record these isolation covers was kind of like, okay, you know, but very hard, you know.
Yeah.
I think also what made beside the technical point of how we record the song and stuff, I think also what made that song and that release special was that it was all happening during the Black Lives Matter protests. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how it was in Edmonton, but here in Montreal, it was pretty wild. I mean, people were on the street during COVID, getting together, destroying downtown, basically. And we were just sitting at home watching TV and watching all this happening to our city. And I mean, for the life of me, like, you know, artists, like, you know, didn't say anything. Like nobody, people were like, I support the cause and whatever. But like, I don't know, the song came to my head and I was just like, this is so appropriate for the times. I mean, what kind of a world do we live in where, like, you know, artists don't say anything? So I felt like we needed to say something. And that song, even though we didn't write the lyrics, felt so close to home. So it all happened very quickly. You know, it had, like, the riots happened, I think the same night or maybe the morning after we recorded the song, and it was out the following Friday, you know?
Yeah, I remember the rush on that one. In the video, you can see I'm wearing like sunglasses and a hat. I was having a horrible day that day. I got home from work kind of really late, and I had to get it done like now, you know? And like Dave said, it's an easy song in a way when you're jamming with people, but when it's cold and to a click to give it feel and everything. Right. I remember at one point I put on the glass and hat because I was like, I just look too pissed off for this fucking video.
You had to hide it somehow.
I had to hide it somehow.
That's classic though. So it really is about the sort of the feel, the warmth. I don't know how we've heard various terms thrown around here, but it all seems to mean the same thing. It's just that in-person live element. So when you guys are typically recording, let's say like pre-COVID, are you doing live recordings where you're all playing at the same time, or is it all separate parts?
Absolutely. We really believe in the live off the floor and capturing the energy of all of us playing together. That's one of the reasons. Yeah, that's one of the reasons we went to the Warehouse in Vancouver that has an incredibly huge, beautiful live room that could really support the big sound of the band, you know?
There's just something about, those classic rock recordings that, yeah, of course it's about the instruments, and yes, of course about the unbelievable songs, but also these guys, you know, they got into a room together, they practiced their asses off. And then they went into the studio and they played it as a band, and that has a certain sound. We always kind of strive to get to that level, which is it's a harder thing to do than just recording track by track and you get everything perfect. It's like get into a room and just play together, capture that. There's magic in there.
Taking it back to the way that it was originally done, and I think that you guys really capture that in the music, because I mean it's one of the very few more modern bands that I'm like, this really sounds like, the second I heard it I was like, yep, adding to the playlist. It was just like, this connects with me. So I think it's really interesting that you guys sort of have a method for that.
Thanks, man. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me about recording in the warehouse studio. You mentioned how it impacts the sound, and talk to me about the meaning of that studio for you guys as a group.
You want to take the lead, Dave?
Well, I mean, there's this kind of like Vancouver Little Mountain connection where all of these like incredible rock records were made in these incredible spaces by incredible producers, and they're all tied into this like rock and roll sound, and kind of wanted to tap into not only the spaces, but that feeling where it's like, where the legends, and the legends to be, kind of made their records. So, that was part of the reason why we headed out west in the first place. But, we in some ways we were also not really given a choice, because, I mean, we were invited to make our next record with Bob Rock, and Bob Rock works at the warehouse in Vancouver. So that's where we went, and it's just one of the most incredible places to make a record in the world. From the space to just the environment and the feel and the equipment and the layout and the team. It's if anybody gets the luxury and the honor to record in this way, you really feel like a rock star and you play like a rock star. And what comes out of the speakers is just next level. And it influenced
really makes a
the way
difference.
we kind of like rehearsed. It influenced the way we took our music into the studio, and it definitely influenced the way we played when we were there in the room.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. It was like, this is for real. Now we're here. You hear the drums 30 feet into the ceiling, fucking vibrating. You're like, okay,
wow,
we're making a record.
So you guys could all feel that energy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, like let's not forget that. I mean, with all due respect, you have to. I'm a guitar player. You have to play guitar in front of Bob Rock. It's like it's nerve-wracking.
Oh yeah, a tad bit nervous.
All these legends. I mean, he just, you have to like stand there and do your best and hope for the best. But like, I mean, after an hour or two with the guy, you just like all the walls were broken. And he's just such a good Canadian boy and a nice guy, and we had a great time together.
And something else about the room is, growing up on those records in particular, it kind of makes it like that sound you just chase your whole life, and you can never forget it. Especially when you're young, you're like, why does my amp sound like shit? Why does my bass not sound like Free? Why? And then you get to the warehouse where all those sounds were created and born, and you're like, oh, this is,
you can capture that.
This is how they got it. It only takes this room, this kit, all these mics, and it was interesting to see it done, for real, like Willy Wonka's factory, basically.
That's really interesting, though. So it almost changed your perspective on how music was made, in a sense, or helped evolve it.
Yeah, well, it'll help us achieve those tones that we might not have achieved because of that room, that gear, that system of working with Bob, how he... It's like, after one take, he'll go to Tom like, how about you try this guitar? And then it takes 15 minutes for the assistant to go deep into the warehouse to pick up a guitar from like 1950 that's still got the dust on it, And then that was it. That was the sound,
Wow. For each of you individually, what do you think sets Bob Rock apart from other producers once you're in the studio with him?
I'll go first. I think his vast knowledge of music is one thing, that's for sure. Yeah. But I'm not going to touch on that. I think what really, really sets him apart is his personality and who he is as a person. And it takes somebody special to know how to push the buttons in the studios and how to set up the mics and whatever. But it takes a real genius to get an amazing performance out of an artist. And that's where a producer, that's the difference between a good producer and a great producer. And Bob definitely knows how to do that. He knows how to get into you and get out what he needs, you know? So that's my point.
Without causing trouble, without like any drama or anything. He's like a ghost. He's in and out. It's amazing.
He's not one of the producers that's sort of like beating the artist over the head, so to speak. You hear a lot of that too. No,
not us anyway.
Not us. for us, like it felt. I remember from the first call with him, like we spoke before. Like he heard the music, he heard our demos, and then like we were talking about actually going in and what we needed to, to kind of just for like, I remember our initial first conversation with him where we're all sort of giddy and nervous and feeling like little, teenagers. And then like within the first 2 minutes, like this cool, calm, collected vibe, this true Canadian boy, came out, and it was just, we were talking about Zeppelin 1 and Zeppelin 2, and he was talking about how, and I hear this sort of thing in this song, and I hear, a little Oasis inspiration in that, and it was just like, he just got it, he just got us so quickly. And it was like, there was no explanations needed. We didn't have to sit there and like give him, okay, well, we believe in this and we really want to sound like that. No, by hearing our music, he understood. And that's when I knew like this was going to be magic, because there, you don't need to explain. If the music just speaks for itself, then there's not that much to talk about. It's just, let's go and play,
Wow, that's pretty incredible. I mean, as an artist, that must be so very freeing when you're in that environment. Dave, what about you?
So.
I think the thing that like I took, one of the things, without like stepping on everybody's comments, I mean, one of the takeaways for me is that I think everyone who stepped into the room with Bob, the four of us, the team, his assistant, and everybody's just operating at the highest level, There was no fucking around, not from the band, not from the assistants, not from the studio, not from Bob. He worked impossibly hard, as did the assistants. We had an incredibly smooth and productive and efficient session. It was, it was a little mind-boggling looking back how much we got done with Bob in the short amount of time that we had. And you could tell that everyone was working as hard as they possibly could for us and for Bob, and for the music. And Bob included, he was first there in the morning, last out the door at night. He put in the extra hours. Not to say that I didn't expect that, but, I wasn't expecting as much,
It superseded any expectations.
Definitely. Real hardworking guy, and we benefited from that.
He's definitely was like you described, very hardworking Canadian man, He would come in the morning, hang up his hat, work the whole day, put the hat back on, to the hotel, sleep, wake up at 5 a.m., check out all the tracks we did before the day started, and then get an idea of what's going to go on, get back to the studio, hat back on the hook, back to work, and no panic, we managed to get 6 songs in 4 days, which sounds like a panic weekend to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having a panic attack just talking about it, but no, I mean that's really, it sounds effortless, and the process sounds effortless, and I'm sure that's going to be coming across in all of the music that's going to be coming out. For the music we haven't heard, what can you tell people about what to expect?
Loud.
That's a good sign. You guys seem pretty happy about it.
We're very happy. We're very proud. I think, when I listen back, I go back to the initial time that I put, the earbuds in my head on the flight back home from Vancouver, like bawling my eyes out, just not believing that we sounded as we sounded, I really believe that we've never sounded so good. And that's, sorry if you can hear my cat.
It's okay. This is the Zoom world. We're all in it.
So for me, hands down, best thing we've ever done. I'm super, super pumped. And like in terms of the songwriting, lyrically, it's really, really incredible to me that we wrote the album pre-COVID, because it resonates so strongly. Our first single is a song called "This Is Who We Are Now," and the lyrics, just like when I wrote them, I was thinking a bit more about the polluted world that we live in, and like being on my phone all the time, and like being, suffering all these sort of addictions. And having to do with being indoors. And then suddenly,
Right.
here we are having to
So
be
it
indoors.
resonates even more now.
Yeah,
That's wild.
It's really, really crazy.
I also remember more on the writing side of things is that, personally, I made a really conscious decision to maybe not to be so much of a finger pointer kind of guy in my songwriting. Like, oh, this is what's wrong with the world. I don't like this.
Right.
And I wanted to write stuff that there was a bit more positive, and to spread some love into the world, because at the time I felt like this is what we need right now, And
Right.
I think it really came through, and I think Bob really understood that too. And the few adjustments that he made, whether it's in the arrangements or the music itself, he really brought it up to that level. When some of the songs I listened back to, I'm like, it's good. It's a positive message, and that's what kind of what we were going for.
So you're going for the uplifting thing, and talk about timing. I mean, as things are starting to sort of become semi more normal, I think that'll hit really well with people.
I hope so.
Definitely. Well, that's fantastic. So talking about, we mentioned off the top, you guys' cover of Gimme Shelter. I'm wondering, what are you guys' favorite cover songs? Do you have any track that you think is maybe the ultimate? And also I have here from WatchMojo, of course, we were known for our top 10 list. I have the top 3 cover songs from WatchMojo that I'm going to reveal next.
I think mine is a little bit of a deep track. There's a song called Live With Me, and it's by Massive Attack originally, and Mark Lanigan from the Screaming Trees did an incredible cover. And it's not a very famous song, I don't think, but it's just beautiful.
It resonates with you.
Very much so. I encourage everybody to listen to it. It's amazing.
Dave, I saw you hitting the Google when we were asking this question. Were you looking for one?
I wasn't too sure, because, you put us on the spot, and then you kind of like, oh, shit, I got to fucking dip into the repertoire, and my Rolodex is not so sharp. But, one of my favorite songs of all time is Castles Made of Sand by Jimi Hendrix. And when I was a kid, I used to love listening to bootlegs of the Red Hot Chili Pepper concerts and just digging out, going to there was this store here in Montreal called the Man from Mars, and it was just like you go there and you buy tapes of bootleg concerts,
Nice.
So I used to buy these Red Hot Chili Pepper bootleg concerts, and they would play the song Castles Made of Sand by Jimi Hendrix at all their shows. And I'm not too sure if they ever really did great justice to that song, but that song and the Red Hot Chili Peppers have always stood out to me. So that kind of would be my pick, but I don't think you'll ever find a commercially released version of that song. You'd have to go and dig out dusty tapes from the Man from Mars and,
just a little live moment, maybe not even an official thing.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Do we have any more favorite covers?
Yeah, I think I'd probably say All Along the Watchtower, Jimi Hendrix's cover of the Bob Dylan song.
Beautiful.
That's got to be number one on the list.
Yeah.
I really love
That's your
that
guess for
song
number
by
one?
Bob
Okay.
Dylan, but I have to say it's one of the harder ones to choose between the two,
Yes.
The original or the cover.
No doubt.
My guess is that song is number one on the Mojo list, on the WatchMojo list.
Okay. Very good
that's my
guess.
Yes? Oh,
That's my guess.
I guess.
So we have the list here. It was a good guess, but All Along the Watchtower is number 4 on the list. Number 3 is Twist and Shout, the Beatles covering Top Notes. Number 2, I Will Always Love You, Whitney Houston covering Dolly Parton. And number 1, Hound Dog covering Big Mama Thornton. Elvis covering Big Mama Thornton.
Covering Big Mama Thornton. Yes, absolutely.
That is a huge one,
Pretty good list.
I love it. I love
Good job,
it.
PY.
The Big Mama Thornton's number 1 there. That's pretty incredible.
It is, yeah. My personal favorite from the list, and it was number 10, is Where Did You Sleep Last Night? Nirvana covering David Bowie. That one takes the cake for me.
Oh, yeah. That's
Incredible.
a phenomenal song.
Actually, Where'd You Sleep Last Night is the Lead Belly.
It's Lead Belly, yes.
See,
The Men
that's
Who
what I
Sold the
mean.
World was the David Bowie version in the Unplugged concert. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. See, my mistake. See, I'm always going back in time with this stuff, so I'm trying to, piece it all together.
I love that record.
Incredible record. Another one is in terms of artist collaborations, and if you could make a super group, whether it's a duo, whether it's a band, who are 2 creative artistic forces that you would love to see collide that you haven't seen yet?
Do they have to be living?
No.
Oh, fuck.
I mean, if it's a super group, it could be like Dimebag could be in it. I mean, who knows, you know?
I'd like to see Jimi Hendrix and Joni Mitchell do something.
There you go. Now that's a classic right there.
Because that would be, wow.
Yeah. We also have a list for that. Number 3 is Taylor Swift and Katy Perry. Number 2, FKA Twigs and Kendrick Lamar. And number 1, Ed Sheeran and Ellie Goulding. Definitely not my list, but that is the top 10 list.
Makes sense.
Definitely. I think we need a Aerosmith Rolling Stones tour. There've probably been plenty of them in the past, but we need a new one, I think, coming out of this pandemic.
That's awesome. We were on another Zoom call last night and the same exact combo came up.
Really?
Yeah. With a few others for like a mega tour, greatest tour of all time.
I would have loved to hear what, like, Beethoven and Jimmy Page could come up together.
Now we're talking.
Can you imagine? Like, if Beethoven wrote something for Jimmy Page.
The harmony is so good.
Throw Zappa in the mix maybe to compose something. You never know. Awesome, guys. Well, listen, thank you so much. This has been really cool to talk to you guys. And, the last thing I really want to know, what are you looking forward to the most coming out of this pandemic as a band? Is there anything that you're really itching to go do, a specific festival?
Play festivals outside under the sun.
Yeah. Amen.
Just play everywhere as much as possible and go back to our touring life.
I mean, we've been a band now for a few years. And I mean, I haven't been home for a year in 15 years. Like, I haven't been stuck at home for a year.
Right.
Or just in Montreal for a straight year for so long. So it's just
since I moved here.
I'm jonesing traveling. So.
Well, I really hope you guys get that back. I know you will, and hopefully I get to see you guys out on the road because the music is fantastic, and I'll be listening and supporting. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having us, man.
Thank you.
So what was you guys' reaction like watching that interview with The Damn Truth?
Joe, I'll send it off to you first, master editor. Go for it.
Okay, master editor. Well, The Damn Truth, disclaimer, I'm friends with pretty much the whole band. I played in a band with the drummer a couple years back. Great band. They've been at it for 12 years at least, touring, gigging, crossing Canada, I don't know how many times. In the back of a van. I think their van even caught fire a few years back, and there was a GoFundMe or some sort of campaign that everybody pitched in and got them back on the road.
Right.
Fixed the van. But no, all that to say, fantastic band, hardworking band. I mean, look, the proof is they're working with Bob Rock, man.
It's going to open so much for them. It's going to open a lot of doors for them, I think, in the music world.
Definitely. And might I add, when I was watching that interview back, Cassius, it brought back waves of when I played Guitar Hero. Remember? And every one of those band members looked like they just looked like they fit the role for that video game. They
either
just
in the audience or on the stage, or
it looked like they were plucked from that video game. It brought me back to my youth. But no, also the fact that they're like a family and that this social distancing that they're in right now is it's both a challenge for them to both produce their music, but to also continue their working relationship, their friendship aside from work. So it was a good chat overall.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I appreciate them taking the time to all come on the call together. It's not easy to coordinate something like that. So I just wanted to hop in a couple of topics with you guys because, we're always paying attention to what's going on in music. We look at the anniversaries. And unfortunately, this week we had a really sad anniversary of the passing of Kurt Cobain, which was actually on April 5th, 1994. Now, like Frank, as we were talking about, this predates us, right? So it's a little bit of a different thing for us.
Yeah, for sure. It's but it's like Kurt Cobain and all of them. They just transcend music. They've crossed generations. So regardless of if it preceded our birth years, I'm sure we still have some stories to tell.
Yeah, well, what's your impression of Kurt Cobain? I mean, when I say that name, when I say Nirvana, what's the first things that you sort of think of?
I don't know. kind of these pretty days like today, like riding back with the top down, listening to those to their songs, and just childhood. Obviously, granted that it was when I was younger when I listened to their music, but that's kind of what it brings me back to, like fond, youthful memories that I think you might share that same sentiment, maybe.
Definitely, there's a lot of that. Joe, what's your relationship with Nirvana? I'm curious about that. Or Kurt?
I have a little of love and hate. Not hate, that's a strong word, but more love. Yeah. Love in the sense that, like, I remember the first time they aired "Smells Like Teen Spirit" on like our local version here, Music Plus, as they called it, Music Plus of MTV, and I remember like really, really enjoying the song. I thought it was, different, fresh at the time. And like when that chorus comes in, it was like, wow, this is something special. You just knew right away it was something special about it. Of course,
yeah.
It's not a band I really got into during the grunge scene. I got more into the harder stuff, the Alice in Chains, the Soundgarden. But I mean, Nirvana's a staple, and like it's tragic. Pretty much just tragic what happened.
Would you say that they're just not your genre altogether, or it's kind of like you were too old? Or were you even too old for them? I feel like you were quite a bit younger when they were in their prime.
No, I was probably in my early, maybe 20s or even just before 20s. And no, I had no issues. Just like I said, I was more into the hard rock stuff and like, so the fact that Alice in Chains was a little heavier, I just it resonated more with me than, let's say, the Nirvana. But
yeah,
I mean, all the stuff I've heard, I've enjoyed it, so no issues with them. It's just, like I said, it's just really sad that like it had to end that way. I wonder what it would have been like today,
True.
No doubt. Well, it's a really weird thing with Nirvana because Kurt was so vocally open about not wanting to be the commercial poster boy for rock or really for anything. He was never in it to become famous, which is something rare nowadays because I think most people start picking up a guitar to become famous and they don't even like music. Whereas with him, it was the other way around. So, I always found that fascinating about him, that Nirvana pretty much became the most commercial pop band of that time. And that's sort of the opposite of what Kobain wanted. So it's sort of a weird, tortured story overall. And the other thing I remember about Nirvana, for me, is their Unplugged album. That's my favorite project by Nirvana. When I was a kid, I discovered it. And whenever I'd go to a hotel, like with my family on a hockey tournament for my sister or something like that, I'd be listening to Nirvana because it was like my safe album. So that's what I think of when I think of Kobain. Him sitting in that chair, chain smoking cigarettes and just jamming.
Well, that whole era, right? There was a lot of the Unplugged, MTV Unplugged, right? So there was
amazing era, man.
Exactly. There was an Alice in Chains one that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
There was even some of the more the groups that were sort of fading out at that point, like the hard rockers and stuff. But yeah, Nirvana's is definitely like a milestone in terms of that kind of stuff. It definitely, I enjoyed that set of theirs. It's, that whole intimacy, how they made it work. What are they? 3 musicians, right? I think with Dave Grohl.
Well, I think there was some extra people that weren't in the band. Yeah. Like they had a harp player. They had some session people.
Great guys. Great. That was a great show.
If we're talking about like favorite memories or what moments, like I don't remember which award show it was, but I feel like the producers had told them, right, like don't only just saying don't perform the music live.
Right.
And they took that to heart, and then Kurt Cobain just muffled his way through singing that. He kind of like stuck the microphone in his mouth, and anyways, it was a big FU to the producers of that show, basically, which it's a testament to their uniqueness and their them being pure to their music and not giving in to what other people want to demand from them. So
no, that's a good point.
I know we're talking about like Kurt Cobain, but like if you think about how someone like Dave Grohl, right? How do you rebuild yourself? Like when something like that happens and like such a big thing, right? And then he went through a little bit of a down point, and next thing you know, Foo Fighters, and it's like
huge
again, exactly. It's
one of the few stories
like
where that happens
twice.
Exactly. Lightning in a bottle twice. That's a good way to put it. And, I think very few people who left their band that was massively successful went on to become more successful. I think Ozzy Osbourne is a rare example. David Coverdale is a rare example. I can think of, maybe Stevie Nicks, even though she didn't really leave Fleetwood, or she's in it now technically. But nonetheless, I think it's very rare. And wow, what a thing for Dave Grohl to do. He actually said he couldn't even play music for at least 5 years after it happened. So kudos to him, And speaking of legendary drummers, legendary guitar players, let's hop into our conversation with MDT, the Motorcycle Display Team. And those guys are on here to talk about the first Rage Against the Machine record. So we have all the layout here for you guys coming right up now. We're joined now with a very special group here on Innersleeve. We have Joe Pacheco, our resident producer at SoundMojo, and also the gentleman from the Motorcycle Display Team, MDT. Guys, if I could just get a round of introductions.
I'm Steve. I'm the singer and guitarist of MDT, Motorcycle Display Team. Either of you two?
I'm Morgan. I'm the drummer and general annoying person in the band.
I'm Drew. I'm the current and hopefully last bass player of Motorcycle Display Team.
Hopefully it stays that way.
We're not getting another one. We're going back to being a two-piece.
Yeah. So you guys have been talking about, some of your favorite albums, some of your least favorite albums, and really mixing it up with the music discussion. And I thought today we'd tackle a record that is just having its anniversary semi-recently, the Rage Against the Machine debut. I don't know which one of you guys wants to start, because I think this record probably means a lot to all of us.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Go ahead then, Drew.
Yeah, I know for a fact that the other two absolutely love this album as well. Like one of the things that when I first met Morgan, one of the things we'd do in some of our downtime just be jam rage tunes, specifically Killing in the Name of, just such a good introduction to such an amazing band.
And around what time was this?
When did we get
3:30 Wednesday?
Closer to the release of the record, though?
What quarter four, I thought.
No. This would have been way after.
2007, 2006. That's when I first met you, I think, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, round about then. But we were both sort of...
halfway through the tenure of this band, Morgan started up a Rage tribute act. Well, you didn't start it, but you joined one.
Nice.
Played with them for a few gigs.
Really?
With Jim.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool because with all the Motorcycle Display Team videos that we see on SoundMojo, honestly, you guys have some really nice, unique, original videos, and they get such a great response from the audience. But my personal, because I'm a guitar player, but I wanted to be a drummer, so I just love watching Morgan just go at it on those drums. It's such a show to watch. So it's funny that you did a Rage Against the Machine tribute. Because for me, again, the drummer is, my God, just the solidest groove, that you can find besides, Bonham and all that stuff. But the fact that they have such power, but with groove, and when it came out, I heard it right away when it came out in 91. And for me, my first impression was, I think at the time there was a lot of rock, rap. And this is the first, I think, where it sounded legitimate. This is a sound. Whereas It didn't sound like as a rocker's trying to rap or rapper's trying to rock, but it sounded like, what the hell is this? Is a force to be reckoned with. That's the first impression I got, aside from all the political stuff and great,
Yes, and it was an interesting year for political stuff in music, too. That was the year that Body Count released their anti-police song, which was highly controversial, and also when Sinead O'Connor ripped up the photo of the Pope. So this was a weird time for music, sort of in general.
Was that 92 as well?
Yes.
Whoa.
Feels like last week, huh?
Yeah, it's a very strange time of sort of uprising. So you mentioned the political stuff, Joe. I think that's why I think America was primed for a very aggressive political message. I don't know if you all agree, but from my view, I think that the Rage was not only building within the band, I think they were channeling something that was building throughout the country and throughout the world.
Yeah, you say that, but at the same time, I think the lyrics, everything about that album is still really relevant for today. like Killing in the Name, the Clan, we know that they're still as active as ever. Like the whole, trying to create this bad image of Islam in the media. You know what I mean? That's all the themes in it are still really, really relevant, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, I guess, young people can listen to it and still relate to it. I do wonder how it sounds to a fresh pair of ears. Like my kids are nothing to go on because they know that record just from me playing it so much, because it's not like they're going to hear it suddenly and go, oh, what's that? Does it sound fresh? But I haven't spoken to anybody under the age of 20 who has just discovered that. I don't know. Does it carry over?
Well, I don't have kids. Does everyone else have kids here?
Yeah.
I do. But I to build on what you're saying, I think so, because I think it's timeless. I think it's anyone who will listen to it. I mean, you may not resonate with it. It may not be your vibe. Some people don't like the heaviness or the swearing, whatever. But I think like it's a timeless album, and it will always resonate. Just like, if we listen to, some of those 60s recordings today, they're still they still have their value, right?
Yeah. Joe, when you said the swearing, that was one of my favorite things about finding the Rage Against the Machine album in a jukebox in a pub. It used to be one of my favorite things. You would like being like a relatively sort of quiet conservative pub, and they used to have quite a lot of jukeboxes. And there was this one in the King's Road called the Trafalgar, and it was like a hotel foyer. So people would put on like pop hits and bits and pieces. Right at the back, they had Rage Against the Machine. So I would put on. It was like, I think it was £3 for 10 tracks, and I'd just put the entire album on.
Going around, do we all remember the first time we heard the album?
Oh, yeah. Very, very much so. I remember.
Remembers where he was.
Yeah, it was in the back of a car driving along in Texas.
It was in Dallas, 1963.
It was on a Sunday night, because they used to be kind of a rock and metal show on RTE Radio, which is the mainstream station in Ireland, because there was no internet back then. And it came on, and I remember thinking, I actually thought it sounded like the Chili Peppers initially, just the kind of the groove. You know what I mean? But then I couldn't believe they played something that had "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me" repeated over and over and over and over again. And then the next day in school, we were all speaking about what's this fucking song? Do you know what I mean? And somebody had the tape, and then we all went on. It was our geography trip in school, and we brought the tape on the bus and played it, and that just became the anthem for the weekend, because we all did things we shouldn't have been doing.
And you had that angst. You're like, "F you, I won't do what you tell me." Basically, absolutely. Every kid wants to say that.
Yeah, totally. I remember first time I heard it, I was in a club here, and I was illegally underage, and I remember they blasting this, and that first impression, you get that feeling when I heard that in a loud club, so it's a moment I'll never forget. I remember we used to, so similar to what you just said, Morgan, it was like we used to go cruising downtown where everybody would be playing blasting in their cars. We'd be blasting in a Jeep YJ with no top, blasting "fuck you, won't do what you tell me." And we just felt so alive, like that energy that it gives. Like sometimes I'll use that song if I'm having a low day or in a bad mood. I'll listen to that song and I feel amazing right after.
Yeah,
I can honestly say that never ever happened to me. Ever.
Really?
I was never cruising anywhere, and if we were, somebody would go, "Shut the hell up," and we'd go, "Fuck you, turn it down, my mum lives here."
You just keep turning it up and up. You're having a conversation and only one person's really talking. Steve, what about you?
I lost my thread. I was going to say something really insightful. This record, I think, as Joe was saying, the energy from it, and also the riffs, they're just... I was sitting here doing my work, and I actually properly headbanged through the whole of Killing in the Name.
Nice.
My neck was killing me for the rest of the week, but it's still I just had to do it. It was like...
Yeah, totally.
Your neck was killing you in the name of...
Yeah.
I would have an instant concussion if I did that.
It felt great doing it though. Yeah. But it just the energy of it is still there. The vibrancy of it is still there. That's why it still feels relevant. And actually,
it still feels raw.
Yeah.
That's it, raw.
I was reading about Zach De La Rocha, later on in the week, and that he gave up the band because he was frustrated that despite all of their activism, they'd achieved nothing, which is, as you were saying, Mark, all of the things that he's complaining about, they're still a problem because they just haven't been resolved. And, you know, all the best protest music in the world, I'm not saying that it's not worth it, but, you know, it's a snail's pace, the change that we see.
I think it's like a drop in the ocean. It needs to fill up, and you know, it's like evolution is like a long game. It's not a quick game, you know.
Precisely. But
we are definitely way better than it was, but it also seems like we're going, you know, with all the stuff that's going on in the news is very.
It's like an ebb and flow or a pendulum. Even it's one of those things. It's going to swing really hard the one way and then really hard the other. And I think that we were just witnessing it, you know, going really hard one way at that time, and maybe we are again. You know, so it's just one of those things. Now, I just wanted to ask you guys, since you're located in the UK, Tom Morello has noted that he finds the UK was one of the first regions to really embrace rage. Do you guys think that that's the case? And talking to people who sort of go back in metal, is rage an important part of the UK for you guys?
Yeah, I'd say
many
so.
music fans who don't love it.
Well, I'll put it this. I don't know if you guys in Canada were aware of this. In 2009, as a protest against the X Factor, there was a grassroots campaign to get Killing in the Name to the Christmas #1. Traditionally in the UK, Christmas #1 record.
The Christmas
is a big deal. The Christmas #1.
Yeah.
Then when the X Factor became popular in the mid-noughties, it kind of hijacked that position from pop culture. So whoever won the X Factor at Christmas time, their record was released a week before Christmas, and then it got to #1. So by 2009, people were sick of the X Factor, and the song was always something really just syrupy and shit, to be quite honest. So this guy in Essex, he set up a Facebook campaign to get people to buy Killing in the Name by Rage, to get it to be the Christmas one.
Yeah, I think I bought 4 copies.
#1. So they very much so are part of British culture nowadays, definitely, because of that. And the following summer, they did a free concert in Finsbury Park for just to say thank you to the UK.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
That was a big deal, and they were broken up. They got back together for it.
Yeah,
and let me ask you guys, like this album. We're talking about the first album, but I mean they have a couple more albums after that. My personal opinion is like they never put out a bad album or song. You know, like it's just.
I can't say song with you, but I'll say album.
What? For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, you know, you might not like one song, you know, more than the other, but I mean, as a total, let's say, like, what is it, 4 or 5 albums? Just like, I find they're solid A to Z. They never, like, you know, they didn't put out a bad album, basically, in my opinion.
No, even the covers album wasn't. I like the covers album. I thought that was great as well.
Yeah. Have you guys ever got to see them live?
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw them in '94.
Wow.
And I saw them in 2008. And I actually had a ticket for the free gig they did after the X Factor, but my son was born 3 days beforehand.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Saw them whenever they did Reading. I think it might have been 96 or 97. If it was 96, I'd like to take this opportunity to say, sorry, Mum, I wasn't at Gary's house.
One of many times. Tom Morello said that he didn't expect to get a record deal for this record. Not only that, he didn't even expect to book a club gig. Fast forward to the album coming out, they went 3 times platinum.
Wow.
So, and it sounds like all of us are sort of surprised that it went that big too, because it was there's moments of it that are even abrasive for a rock fan.
They had some big staff. Didn't they have quite some big staff on the recording it though? I'm
pretty sure it was a powerhouse.
Because I thought it was. I know Andy Wallace did the mixing on it. The only reason I know that is he did some 2 of my favourite albums. So that was the only reason I know Andy Wallace was on it. I don't normally know all this sort of stuff.
The guy from Tool, James Maynard Keenan, doesn't he just do the vocal on Know Your Enemy?
Yeah.
Not just that, Mark. Stephen Perkins is on it.
You're right. That's yes,
true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So much stuff.
But around that time, it was, and the producer is Garth, G.G. Garth, a.k.a. Garth Richardson's the Canadian producer. He's done stuff for Nickelback, Motorhead, and the Chili Peppers. So, and you know, the mention of the Chili Peppers in this conversation was really good too, because I do hear that, especially in the drums and bass, and I think that this was a really innovative record for drums and bass, because really that was the driving force of a lot of it next to Morello.
He just came out with something that just like no one had heard of yet, done that well at that point, you know. And then with the rage, literally, and the groove is, like I said, it's a perfect storm. I think at that time too, just in between like the hair metal, and then grunge coming in, like they were the perfect like breath of fresh air kind of thing.
Yeah, and you know, you're absolutely like, that's the nail on head. Nobody was doing what Tom Morello was doing. Like, don't get me wrong, the rhythm section is one of the reasons I play bass. Like, Tim Comerford's immense, like an amazing bass player. Brad Wilk clearly speaks for himself, but Tom Morello was just different. There was nothing else like it. And as well, did you
really seen anything like it since? I mean, no. I've never seen many guitarists who have like modified the guitar to take the switch out, and you know they've got, I don't even know what he was doing. So he got some touching the metal scratch plate, and it was resonating.
But anybody who's done it, it's sort of as a result of him.
Yeah,
you know, which is like really interesting.
Anybody who finger tap was a result of Eddie Van Halen, right? So it's like,
this is true.
He may be the next guy. Well, like I wouldn't want to put him on the same pedestal as Van Halen, or not, but I think he may be like that generation's like curveball, like out of the left field, and like no one saw it coming.
Yeah, I love on the inlay. It said no synthesizers were used in the recording of this album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it used to be cool to hate synths.
Yeah.
In this
Steve, though, you're so right about the guitar theme, right? Like I grew up in Victoria, and I could count the other amount of like musicians there were on one hand, but there was one guy who was just known for being a great guitarist, and the one and only mod he did on his guitar was one of his 3-way pickup selectors. He just had it dead, so he could do that stuff. He literally wired up both pickups to one, and then just left one dead, so he could do all that stuff as well.
That's cool.
And that's like the fact that he inspired someone to do that is amazing.
I love that.
And again, I ripped all the frets out of a Squire bass to try and sound like Jaco Pastorius, and that did not work.
It's all about creating that new language, and then people are gonna, try to work with that language themselves on the instrument, and then create their own. So I think it's, he's one of the few people in recent times that can really reinvent, the instrument as we know it. Should we go around and say our favorite track from the album, Joe?
Killing in the Name of.
Easy. Drew?
I took the easy way out.
It's just, you know what? Just to be different, I'm going to say Bomb Track, because what a way to open an album.
Exactly.
Yes. Steve?
It's difficult to pick because I really like them. I like them all. I think probably Know Your Enemy then. Great riff.
Morgan?
Like the rest of them.
Has to be Freedom. The way it ends, the build up is just freedom.
Mm-hmm. Insanity.
If I could squeeze in a second favorite, would be Wake Up, because of like every time I hear that intro, I think of The Matrix and Neo just blasting off, and that's like my favorite movie.
Our resident Keanu expert over here.
Yeah, I love Keanu, so fanboy.
I thought Freedom was fantastic because it's probably it's almost definitely the best George Michael cover I've ever heard.
They really refined it.
Yeah. It sounds almost different. They made it their own.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they made it their own.
They did. I good choices. I think Bomb Track might be my favorite, just because I never heard the other tracks separately. So that was the first song I actually ever heard by Rage, and that was just my first exposure to the music ever. And then I ended up playing it for my sister. Morgan, you were wondering about younger ears to it. She was like 15 at the time, and she ended up loving it too. And I think it's just the explosivity of starting an album with that type of audacity was. I think that's the introduction of a lifetime, really. So I think that's a good recap of the record. Lots of influences too. I mean, one of the main influences that I heard was on Take the Power Back, when they go into that Sabbath section. I mean, I love stuff like that. Lots of Zeppelin influence. So any additional thoughts on the record?
How about this? How about, is it the best debut record of all time?
Oh,
That's tough.
It's hard to say, but it's definitely a contender.
Black Sabbath's titled album is creeping in the discussion and getting offended. I don't know.
That's true. That was that debut album as well. Like some good
Zeppelin.
ones in there.
It's tough to pick.
I would prefer Led Zeppelin 2 to Led Zeppelin.
I preferred Led Zeppelin 2 as well.
It's more original.
Morgan's favourite debut album is Definitely Maybe by Oasis.
Oh, is it? Big Oasis guy over here.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Would you like it?
But, I think it's probably at least one of the top 5 debuts ever. I mean, it's, we're still talking about it, so that has to mean something.
Yeah. I was looking at this the other day, actually. I was best debut albums. There's quite a few. There's like Led Zeppelin and all the rest of it. But one of the ones that I completely forgot about, and it was in the top 10 list, and that was like Pearl Jam 10. I didn't realize that was a debut.
That was a debut. Wow. Even Slipknot's debut was pretty damn solid for an innovative band. But this leaves plenty of stuff for us to touch on in the future. I mean, if we don't want to stop, that's a good sign, and we'll leave the people wanting more. So, gentlemen, do you guys want to plug the channel? I know everybody can find you at Motorcycle Display Team, musicglue.com/motorcycle-display team. Any other links?
You can just go to mdtband.com or motorcycledisplayteam.com.
Yeah, and I'll have that in the description, the links and stuff.
But yeah, every week we're reviewing five randomly chosen records from the 1001 LPs you should listen to before you die, and we talk about them at length. Well, some of them at length. Some of them we just give a cursorily give them a score and then move on. And then some we spend a lot of time on slagging them off.
That's it. Good times all around on you guys' content.
And what's coming up, like new material, new songs? You guys are working with all the lockdown craziness that went on?
Yeah, we're going to be getting into the studio as soon as we're able. We were supposed to record March 2020, but obviously that got knocked on the head. So we're itching to get back into just to rehearse, just to shake off the rust. Mm-hmm. And then, hopefully we were booked to record May, so we'll have something out in the summer.
Awesome. Looking forward to that.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. It's been awesome.
Oh, cheers for having us.
Cassius. Thanks, Joe.
Awesome time chatting with those guys. I think we covered a lot of ground in this episode.
It's so funny. It just kept me laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
Seriously.
They can be stand-up comedians for sure.
Definitely want to have them back on the show. Shout out to those guys, and make sure you go hit their channel. And speaking of new content, we also have some awesome new stuff over on SoundMojo from DreTheMusicMan.
Yeah, this week, Saturday, we have Separating the Art from the Artist.
They didn't know. So knowing is the real difference here. The art remains the same, but whether you know or not can change whether you're gonna remain a fan. So I ask you guys, how do you draw your line? If your favorite singer, songwriter, artist in general, if they turn out to be a real monster, does that mean you're gonna cut the art out completely? I don't know. I honestly don't have an opinion on this. It's a tough call.
Are you guys able to?
For me, it depends on who it... Well, it doesn't depend on who it is. It depends on what they've done. I think there's certain bands, the only ones I really have a moratorium on, like I know Cannibal Corpse, like the guy had some horrible charges that I think even related to cannibalism. So since I'm not a listener of them, I will not be a listener of them in the future. So that's really the only example I can think of. How about you, Frank? Have you ever cut an artist off and said, I'm done with this guy, I can't listen to them?
You know what? Not when it comes to music, no. And maybe it's because, let's say I grew up with Michael Jackson, not after it, right? And I felt super attached to him as an artist. And then when you think of them as an extension of you almost, with how attached you become with them. Totally. Then you hear all this come out, so your opinions kind of change. But so if we're using Michael Jackson as the example for this scenario, No, I still rock out to a Michael Jackson song. But let's say I grew up with him and he was more attached to me, maybe I would feel different about it. But I can tell you for a fact it happens quite often in comedy, which we've seen, evolve in the past year with a few storylines there. And it also happens in sports too, when certain athletes do off-field, off-court, disgusting acts, and you kind of feel a different way about them, and they kind of just get removed from their career, really. So it happens in other domains as well. And but for music, to bring it back to your initial question, no, as of now, an artist specifically that I've stopped listening to because of something hasn't happened to me.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it also makes a big difference whether or not they're convicted of what they've done. Michael Jackson, he went to court with all this stuff, and basically that's a story where there's two sides of the coin. There's lots of evidence for both opinions, and you can really make up your own mind. However, a situation like R. Kelly, for example, there's really not evidence on both sides, or there's evidence on one side, and he's been convicted for, I think, part of it at least. So yeah, I think that for me at least, Joe, I don't know about you, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, that does make a big difference for me as well, because I don't know why, it just is. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just like you said, I grew up with Michael Jackson. I don't necessarily attach sometimes the songs to the artist, because the songs, I always say, right, like once you put it out there, people make it their own, right? So you get married to a song, or it's a first dance song, or it's your whatever, it reminds you of whoever the song. So
see, look at this. Dre the Music Man has got us on 10 different theories.
That's what
here.
He wants.
He's got our minds going.
I just wanted to. Talking about this brought me back again to like my childhood. It was like I remember watching Free Willy, and then the Michael Jackson song. Right, what was it? Will You Be There? Right, remember that played in that music? Like it's like all these great songs that I grew up with, and I can only imagine it must have been super difficult for people who actually grew with him to go through this process. So anyways, this is the conversation that Dre wants. So.
Definitely.
That's
fantastic stuff. And
definitely check. Sorry, I was going to say, just definitely check out that video. Let us know your comments in this video, what you guys think.
Salute to Dre the Music Man. So much great content on this episode. I mean, I think we covered a lot of ground this week.
I think we even cut out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, seriously. We have a whole other B-side of this show.
So much more stuff.
Joe's there in his office. Oh my God, I got to cut an hour's worth of film. Holy shit.
I know it looks sunny in here, but it's like a dungeon almost. It's a recording studio dungeon.
He hasn't left in weeks. Trust us, guys. He hasn't.
It's my lair.
Yeah, probably the most jam-packed episode so far, but I mean, hey, we've got conversations to show. So
there's always a good music anniversary. There's so much great music to talk about, and the more we celebrate it, the more we keep it alive, the more the legacy continues. So that's really the best thing we can do. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode number 16 of Innersleeve. Of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you're tuned in, be it YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's all the same button. Click subscribe and click the little notification bell if there is one, so you stay extra up to date with everything we're doing. Also on YouTube, check out our community tab. We have the tab there where we want to interact with you guys through polls, questions. We want to know who you want to see on the show, what you want to hear discussed. Really, it's all about what you guys want, and we're here to do what you guys want to see. So let us know. And of course, follow SoundMojo on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you guys next week.